really at the level of mainstream adoption that we cases where sadly they are almost falsified. You can see some examples. I won't spend too much time picking on other guys, but IOTA announcing a partnership with Microsoft when in reality they're just an Azure customer, or Monaco announcing a partnership with Visa when in reality it was pending and never happened. This race to get credibility through claiming adoption through corporate partners is just going to cause more backlash in the end when people stop believing the reality of it. Now, I want to stop for a second because while adoption is great, we all want to see mainstream uses of blockchain. I don't want to say that that's the end-all be-all, because there's a lot of projects that are doing very important things, building infrastructure layers for blockchain that are 1, 3, 5-year projects that are not meant for your typical user to use tomorrow. It's the building blocks for the future. And so just some examples: interoperability between blockchains, Polkadot, Cosmos Hub, a lot of great projects working on that. Scalability is, of course, an issue for all blockchains. So layer 2 solutions like Lightning Network and Graydon are very important. And stable coins, which will make enterprise adoption that much easier without the price volatility of most tokens, like Maker using a collateralized stable coin, Basis using an algorithmic stable coin, all very great. But that said, the price and the media hype isn't because of long-term projects like these, it's because of projects promising to change the world's market. And I think that's really starting to catch up with where we are. So this is not news to most people in the room, so I won't belabor this point for too long, but we all know that since January, the prices of virtually, if not all, crypto assets have suffered greatly. And while that's true of everything, including Bitcoin, it's been particularly pronounced in every other token, or so-called altcoins. And for the vast majority of those, it's because, unlike an infrastructure underlying blockchain like Bitcoin or Ethereum, these are user-focused dApps, where they're issuing a token that is only useful if it's being used by many active users. And when you don't see this rate of adoption for these dApps and these crypto tokens, you're going to see a direct relation with their price taking, and that's just going to be a fact of life. More on the point of the altcoin suffering the worst of this, the Bitcoin dominance ratio, which is essentially total Bitcoin market capitalization divided by total crypto market capitalization, is starting to increase back to where it was in early 2017. It is up to 53%. A lot of people will argue that's because Bitcoin as a store of value is the only one that has actually proved out its use case to a large degree. Like I said, the press are also starting to catch up on this. I will say that our experience on the Theta team with Korean journalists and press has been a lot more positive, because we found the press tends to take a more longer-term view, and even as prices go down, they're thinking more about the underlying technology. And so we'll see why that's a great thing. But I can tell you from my experience with a lot of United States journalists, they are really turning the narrative against blockchain and crypto assets at this point. And I've been told directly by many of them that they've been told a lot of promises, and they were told that this technology was going to change the world very quickly, and that their grandma would be using all these dApps. And now that it's not starting to happen, there's a real backlash against it. The top headline here, I think, really exemplifies what I'm talking about, that this dApp usage versus valuations is just such an incredibly striking discrepancy when you see a dApp is worth several $100 million and it's got 50 daily active users. It's unprecedented, the multiple you would need on a per user basis to just buy that valuation. So now that I've gotten all the negativity out of the way, I don't want to spare my own projects. So at the Theta Network, we have had a lot of issues with adoption as well as we start moving past our testnet phase and into the mainnet launch. And the reality is, it's because we have a decent understanding of blockchain by learning about this ourselves, going to conferences, working on a lot of our own projects. And I think we have a tendency to think that if we just push out this product to your average everyday user, that they're going to feel the same and they're just going to jump right in. The reality is most of these systems, these crypto economic models are very complicated, and it's not going to be easier for most users to jump into it. So that's been the thing that we have really tried to turn our focus to, is hyper-focus on user adoption and what we can do to solve that. So very quick background, what Theta is a decentralized video delivery network. What we're creating is a peer-to-peer mesh streaming network that allows users to share video with other users in the area, either using excess bandwidth or excess computing resources to share videos, taking live streaming, video on demand, and in return for that, they can earn token rewards as their incentive to share. So we're not competing with a YouTube or a Twitch. We're infrastructure that helps power those, like a content delivery network. So, of course, the first thing a user is going to think is they're used to a very easy video experience. They log on to YouTube, they just click the video you want, and you have it right there. So if you try to introduce a token and say a user has to adopt this just to get what they're already used to getting, it's a very, very strong friction point, and it makes adoption very difficult. So to start with, the first point that we try to focus on is make sure that the user experience is the number one driver here. So our goal, and we may not reach it completely, but we try to get as close as we can to having it no more complicated than your average experience going to a video site. Be a little difficult to get quite there, but as soon as you teach them exactly how a token can be spent in other ways and has value, then we think that should be almost the only thing they have to understand in the current system. They don't need to, or they shouldn't need to know all about the intricacies and technical details of blockchain in order to use it, any more than I don't know a lot about the satellite architecture, but it doesn't stop me from using GPS. And we think that's the way it should be with blockchain as well for your average user. The second thing is because we are an infrastructure layer and looking to partner with other video platforms rather than compete with them, we think that creates a much easier entry point for us to go in. Because rather than going from a cold start, which a lot of brand new models, economic models are dealing with, we're able to have a somewhat familiar experience to a user when they go on to use a video platform powered by the Theta blockchain for the first time. The third point is that rather than try to disrupt content delivery networks all at once in one go from day one, what we're doing is augmenting and supplementing the existing system. So right now when you go on YouTube and you watch a video, it's delivered by Akamai or Amazon Web Services, some type of centralized content delivery network. In a lot of ways, cases that's inefficient, but there's a lot of things that centralized content delivery networks do very well too. And we recognize that, and we know that our peer-to-peer network can do some things better, but some things are better done in a centralized manner. That's just the reality of at least our specific use case. So our value proposition to a video platform that we ask to adopt the Theta protocol is that we're going to work alongside your existing system. And where we can be more efficient by distributing video in a peer-to-peer manner, we'll do so. When not, you'll just default back to your current system. So rather than forcing a video platform to take a chance on bleeding edge and, frankly, like most blockchain projects, relatively unproven technology, that's a very difficult sell to ask them to adopt that and risk their user experience. When we can say that they can adopt our protocol alongside it, it makes them much more comfortable to know that they're not going to hurt their end user experience. And we think that's going to be a key point for adoption. The last point is leveraging existing video platforms' user bases, which again goes back to the cold start problem. It's very difficult to build up a large user base and get that inflection point where you have enough users to have a strong peer-to-peer or decentralized system when you're starting from zero. And especially in a case like video delivery or video platforms, they tend to be quite concentrated already. So it's even more difficult to take on, say, YouTube from a decentralized standpoint. So our thought process is to start by leveraging the user bases of video platforms already and introduce the Theta blockchain alongside it. so that users are benefiting from it and learning about it before they even realize the